Morning. Well, it's a beautiful day here. You can see the sun shining over my shoulder. It's a little bit breezy, but it's nice actually. It's just a nice warm day with just a slight cool breeze to take the edge off, and the sun is shining, and it's just kind of a nice day. And I'm not feeling too bad right now. I think I might very well take my wheelbarrow into town and do my business today that I need to do in town. There's no threat of rain that I can see or anything. It looks like it's going to be a decent day all day. If you have to do a lot of walking and pushing a wheelbarrow and stuff, this would be the day to do it, I think. They don't come much better than this. But I'm going to tell you another story from my young years, and I'll make it clear. I'll put a disclaimer at the beginning of it. This story is in no way to encourage anyone to run the police, because it is a story how I used to run the police in cars. This is not to encourage anyone to do that, because I'll tell you right now, and believe me, I know the police. I've had a lot of dealings with the police, and a lot of the dealings I've had with the police have been negative. And I guarantee you, if you run the police and they catch you, they're going to hurt you badly. So if you're going to do that, you better not get caught, because they will hurt you in ways you never thought you could be hurt, physically and legally and everything else. Plus, of course, these days the laws are a lot different than they were when I was young, and the penalties connected to various things are a lot higher than they were, a lot more severe. So if you survive the initial encounter, if they don't kill you on the spot for running them, you're going to go away for a very long time. So you better not get caught if you do this. I'll tell you that right now. And even in my day, the jail time wasn't as much in my day for doing what I did. But I took a real risk in the sense that they could have killed me or severely beat me. But then the reason I was running them is because they were severely beating me. There was one cop in particular. He was an OPP. His last name was Pickett. His name was Wayne Pickett was his name. He was one of our local OPP. He was a sergeant. And he used to haul me out of the car and beat me. If he saw me driving the car, he'd haul me out of the car and beat me. That's just how it was. And he was known to be a real SOB. Even the other cops didn't like him. Just a real dirty outfit. Anyway, so it was because of him that I started running the police when I was young. Because I figured I'm going to take a beating anyway. My only chance of not taking a beating is to run them and get away with it. But I also knew if I didn't get away with it, that a beating may accelerate to a killing, too. Because they'd kill you. They'd kill you right there on the side of the road, too. And they'd get away with it. Especially if you had just ran them. They'd get away with killing you. Anyway, because I used to get beaten by the police on a regular basis, I used to run them. Especially this one cop. And of course I didn't always know who was trying to pull me over either, so, I'd err on the side of caution and I'd run them if I thought I could. Now, I knew the back roads in my area really well. If I got onto a back road, they're just like a maze, eh? And if you get onto those back roads and you know those roads better than the person chasing you, well then, you have a good chance of getting away if you have any skill behind the wheel at all. And I was a highly skilled driver with the old rear-wheel drive body-on-frame cars that we used to have. Now, with a modern front-wheel drive unit construction car, no. With one of those things, if I tried to do the things now that I used to do with the old cars, I'd probably kill myself. They'd find the car out on its roof in a cow pasture or something with me crushed underneath it or something, or me strapped in dead behind the wheel or whatever, so, or seriously hurt or something. But with the old cars, with the big old boats we used to have, where you had a bent seat and a great big wide steering wheel and a column shifter, and that sort of thing, I used to be able to make those cars do things that would amaze you, the stuff I used to be able to do with those cars. And I only did these kinds of maneuvers when I was running from the police, but I knew how. And I mean, I could go around a corner sideways and everything else, the car just fishtailing and stuff, you know, and I'd be working the wheel back and forth and stuff, and cranking the wheel one way and cranking it the other way and bringing the car back in line and all that, you know, and barely slow down to take a corner. I'd be on the highway, and if I had to, I could do that. And anyway, yeah, like I say, I used to do that because I was getting beat by the police. That's why I used to do it. And so I was going to get beat regardless, I figured. Now, I'd never do it if I had a passenger in the car, because I wouldn't put them at risk. Because, you know, no matter how skilled you are, things can still happen. So I didn't take it for granted that I wouldn't pile up the car. It was just a calculated risk, was all. And I also wouldn't do it if I didn't really believe I could do it and get away with it. Unless I was already on a side road, or knew that I could get to a side road in a hurry, I wouldn't do it. But if I got them on the side roads, I knew the side roads better than they did because I was local to the area and they weren't. Most of the police around my area had come from other places. You know, the OPP will do that. What they'll do is, when young cops start, they'll send young cops to all the, well, basically the shithole places that nobody wants to go, which the area I come from is a shithole place that nobody wants to go. If you're not from there, then you don't have any interest in being there, you know. And usually they start out in a place like that. They either send them to a place like my area, or they send them up north. You know, they'll send them way up north. That's another thing they'll do. And once they've earned their stripes, then they can have their choice of postings, and then they generally choose to be posted closer to home, which anybody would, really. I mean, why would you want to live in an economically depressed kind of a crappy area, especially when you have no connection to it, you know? So it's kind of like they had to pay their dues in the crappy area before they could proceed to be wherever they wanted to be, which would generally be closer to wherever they grew up and to their family and stuff like that. So I knew those roads because I was local. They didn't, so that helped me out quite a bit. And what I used to do is I put some distance between myself and them, and I knew where all the hills were, and I knew where all the turnoffs were. And if there was another road that branched off at the bottom of a hill, what I would do is I'd get far enough ahead of them, I'd disappear over the crest of the hill, and then I would do a sharp right or left turn down that other road. And by the time they came over the hill, I was gone. And they'd just keep going straight because they'd figure, well, he's put enough distance between us that I just don't see him. And that used to happen quite a bit, that I do things like that and I get away from them that way. But like I say, I don't recommend doing that. In my case, it was specifically because I was getting beat up and I was having charges trumped up against me and stuff like that I did it. But you know, the cops didn't like me at all, and I didn't like them. I learned early on that the system isn't here to help you. You know, that anything to do with the system is a trap. And because I had learned that, I didn't take any crap. And because I was young, I was a young guy driving an old beat-up car and stuff when I was young, they figured that they had me. You know, they figure, okay, this is, and I was always generally alone. I didn't really have people. I was pretty much on my own. So some of these police who were predatory thought that they were going to really have fun messing with me. And I'd stand up to them. And I'd call them out when they would overstep and things like that. And I'd go to court and I'd fight charges. And I get convicted because you're always convicted, really. You never really win when it's your word against the word of a police officer, even if you're telling the truth. But still, I'd bring out things in court that they had done, and I'd embarrass them. So even though they would win the case, it would come at a cost, because I would make a point in my testimony of talking about how poorly they behaved in their dealings with me and stuff. And so, yeah, I became a thorn in their sides, basically. And it's at the point now where they consider me more trouble than I'm worth, and they mostly leave me alone. But when I was young, I was harassed something awful. Now I know if they ever get the opportunity where they can really do something to me, they will. They're just biding their time and waiting for that to happen. But they're not going to be stupid about it. You know, these aren't stupid people, and they're not going to be stupid about it. So, like I say, in the meantime, though, I have freedom. They don't bother me. But anyway, back in the 1980s and into the 90s and stuff, I had a lot of trouble with them. And I learned that anyway, just to be a real pain in the rear end. Enough that they just didn't want to deal with me anymore, and they'd leave me be. But yeah, anyway, I used to run them. Haven't done it in many years. I probably still could if I was behind the wheel of a big old rear-wheel drive body-on-frame car like the ones we used to have.